Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. If this is your first time being with us this morning, welcome. If this is your first time back in a while, welcome home. My name is Reverend Connie Simon, and it is my honor to be the minister here in this congregation. Our urban community welcomes all with love, supports learning and spiritual justice, spiritual growth, serves our wider community, and works for justice, equity, and inclusion. Following our service during the closing credits, there will be announcements of events that are upcoming in our community. But if there's anything you hear that you'd like more information about, you can always send an email to member-care@firstuu.com. We begin this morning, as we do all our gatherings, by lighting our chalice, the chosen symbol of our faith. This morning, we are blessed to have Lily and her mom, Meredith Plummer, light our chalice as we listen to these words, "The Bright Thread of Hope" by Gretchen Haley. There is too much beauty in this world to give up on it. Yet, and it is always too soon to surrender to cynicism. Bring your doubt, your skepticism, your downright confusion, and even your bitterness. But in the midst of all these, in the center, wrap your tender fingers around that still bright thread of hope. Feel in your heart that still steady hunger for something more, the vision we glimpse every day in the rising sun across the foothills, the light that spreads across the face of the one we love, the look of knowing all there is to know and still loving life, loving us just as it is, just as we are. For this hour, we come to celebrate, to praise, to give thanks, to refuse to give up, to steady ourselves, keepers of hope, brave builders of this still possible world. Come, let us worship together. And we'll begin by singing our vision song. The words will appear on the screen, and we'll all sing together.
Over the past couple months, I've had the privilege of taking a few Renaissance modules. And for those of you who aren't in the know, those are trainings for directors of religious education. A couple of things have stuck with me from those trainings, but today I'd like to share with you two. The first is that stories define who we are. And it's good practice to actually have a set of stories that are told every year, repeated over and over, because new insights can be found at different points in our lives. And I hope today's story will become one of those stories. The second point brought up, or that sticks with me, is something that one of my trainers says. And it's that everything that's human is us. And I'd invite you to think on that as you listen to today's story. Stone Soup, retold by Heather Forrest, illustrated by Susan Gaber. There was once a comfortable little village nestled in the mountains. The people who lived there had more than enough to keep themselves content. One day, 2 travelers came along. Their coats were tattered, their hats were torn, their dusty shoes had holes in their soles. Hungry and tired, one traveler said to the other, "Surely, someone here can spare a bit of food." They knocked boldly on a door. It creaked open and a woman asked, "What do you want?" "Please," said one of the travelers, "we are hungry. Do you care? Will you share? Do you have any food?" The woman squinted her eyes and tartly replied, "No." She quickly slammed the door shut. The travelers walked a little bit farther down the road and knocked on another door. A young boy answered. His chocolate brown eyes were sweet. "Good day," he said shyly. "What do you want?" "Please," said one of the travelers, "we are hungry. Do you care? Will you share? Do you have any food?" The boy replied, "There is no food here," and closed the door. The travelers wandered warily through the village, knocking on every door. But everywhere they heard, "I don't care, I won't share, there is no food." They sat to rest beside a well. One traveler sighed and clutched his empty belly. He said, "If there is really no food in the elegant little village, then the people who live here are in greater need than we are. We should make them our magical soup." The 2 travelers climbed up on the edge of the well and shouted, "We are master cooks! If anyone in this town has a big black pot, we will make the most delicious soup anyone ever tasted." A door slowly opened. A round man emerged carrying a gigantic black pot. "I love to eat," he said. "Here's a pot. Let me see what 2 master cooks can do with it." "Watch and see," said one traveler with glee. The travelers filled the pot with cold water and built a fire. Soon the flames licked the sides of the pot and billows of steam rose into the air. Curious people began to gather. "What is happening?" the townspeople asked. "We are making an unusual soup," said one of the travelers. "It requires a special magical ingredient. I am certain we will find it in this town." All the eyes in the crowd watched as one of the travelers reached down and picked up an ordinary stone. He tossed it into the pot with a splish. "We're making stone soup," he said. "It will be nutritious, delicious, incredible, and edible. But it would taste better," he paused and sighed, "if we only had a carrot." "Where would we find a carrot in this town?" the other traveler asked. "We knocked on every door, and everywhere we heard, 'I don't care, I won't share, there is no food.'" "Then perhaps we cannot make the delicious soup after all," they both announced with a sad shrug of their shoulders, and began to turn away. A child timidly raised her hand and said, "Wait, I might have a small carrot." "Excellent!" shouted the travelers. "Bring what you've got, put it in the pot. We're making stone soup." "This magical soup would taste even better if we had a potato," they added. A deep voice in the back of the crowd called, "I have a potato."
Wonderful! Shouted the travelers. Bring what you've got. Put it in the pot. We're making stone soup. It would taste better still, they said, if we had a few more ingredients. Perhaps, said one villager, I could bring a green bean. Well, said another, if you are going to bring a green bean, I will bring a kernel of corn. I shall not be outdone, cried another. I will bring an egg noodle. One by one, voices announced, I will bring a slice of celery. I will bring a pinch of pepper. I can bring a sprig of parsley. I might bring a tiny turnip. Well, why are you waiting? Cried the travelers. Bring what you've got. Put it in the pot. We're making stone soup. Everyone in the town ran home to bring one small thing to put in the pot. Food flew through the air and landed with splashes in the growing soup. Soon, the huge pot was full and simmering. A wonderful smell drifted through the air. The smell was so tempting, people brought out bowls, spoons, chairs, and tables. They placed hearty loaves of bread, chunks of cheese, and bowls of fruit on the tablecloths. Everyone came to taste the soup and marveled at the flavor. It's amazing, said one woman. These two travelers made such a delicious soup out of a stone. Out of a stone, said the travelers with a grin. And a magical ingredient, sharing. As the travelers left the town, they said, if anyone ever wants to make this soup again, just remember the recipe. Bring what you've got, put it in the pot. Every bit counts. From the largest to the least, together we can celebrate a stone soup feast. Did you know that the world's farmers make enough food to feed 1.5 times the population of the world? And yet, there are still 270,000 households in the Cincinnati area that experience food insecurity. I wonder why that happens. I wonder what we can do about it.
Hi, my name is Harriet Martin Grace, and I volunteer at the Adventist Outreach Ministries Pantry. I do this because I want to feel connected to the community. I want to feel that I'm able to help anyone. We've had people that come in and they're living off the streets, and they say, can you just give us a loaf of bread? And we're able to give them not only bread, juice, milk, whatever that they need. And I feel that it is something that we're required to do. We're required to take care of each other.
My name is Paula Harrison, and I work at the pantry because I was blessed to retire from my job, and when I was asked to serve, I said, of course, that's what the Lord would want me to do, is to be here to help others who are less fortunate than myself and those people who are really in need. And since the pandemic, people are really in need of food and many other things, but I'm here to serve. And I'm always elated when people say, we don't know what we would do if you all were not here. That always touches my heart, so I'm going to be here for the long haul.
Hi, I'm Beth Baker from First Church. I think Bill, my husband's been volunteering here for several years. I've been here for about 9 or 10 months. This is wonderful work. It's an amazing operation. There is a lot of food to be given and organized, and the people we work with are fantastic. And even though I am not curbside where I see the families, I know we're helping so many people.
This is the time in our service where we honor the joys and the sorrows that make our lives. In this congregation, it is our tradition to do that by dropping a stone in water. With each stone representing the joy or the sorrow that we carry, and the water representing the healing power of love. So this morning, we have several joys to drop stones for. You just saw Bev Baker's image in one of the slides. Our joy this morning is that her daughter Leslie is home after a very long time in the hospital and in rehabilitation. So we are very happy that Leslie continues on the mend. We drop a stone for our own Leela Ruth Cooper, who is here somewhere in the building this morning as she prepares to celebrate her birthday tomorrow, her 75th birthday tomorrow, and plans to close on her house. I drop in particular a stone for my great nephew Alexander, who last night won some number of pool games in a row and is headed to Las Vegas for the national championships. Yeah. Our lives, though, are not also without sorrows. Many of them we know. Many of them we can name out loud. We see them in the news. We read them on the front pages of the newspapers. Some of them are held only in our own hearts, carefully guarded, lest we let others know our pain. So we'll drop a stone this morning for all the sorrows. This morning, our service is about the amazing work at the Avondale Shiloh Pantry. And as I was preparing for this service, I stumbled upon something written by blogger Miss D. And I couldn't resist but share it this morning. My circumstances don't define my character or my worth. What has happened to me and my current food security problems do not determine what I can accomplish or what my children can achieve in their lives. My being hungry does not mean I am not loved or special. It means I'm being asked to handle hardship with grace. Please let me be an example to the people in my life and my children about how to use my resources wisely and be grateful in faith for even the little bit I have. We live in a time of abundance. Please bring abundance into my life, my table, and my heart. In the wisdom born of suffering and living on our beautiful green earth, I know my higher power does not think there should ever be a time when I should go without. Today, if I struggle to put food on the table, my higher power knows I am trying my best. Please give me the courage and discipline to decide to eat as healthily as I can. There might be a time when it might seem impossible to be optimistic, and my faith might be hard to hold on to. In this moment, please be my rock and my solace. I have had this kind of moment, and your love has carried me through. Please help me to understand we hunger for food, companionship, stability, fulfillment, and faith. Please give your guidance about how to meet my many needs and the needs of every being who depends upon my household. Today, I might struggle with self-pity and sadness over my situation. My higher power knows not having the abundance I deserve is scary, sad, and discouraging. Please give me strength to find solutions for how to feed my spiritual and physical hunger, and courage to be tenacious and resilient. Please let my pride not interfere in my ability to accept help, and do not let me be disheartened by the things I might have to do in order to survive in this difficult time. I am an independent person, and I know with your help I will always maintain my independence. In the name of everything high and holy, abundant and fertile, sacred and secret, this we pray. Please join me in a moment of silent meditation, reflection, and prayer, after which we will sing Spirit of Life.
My name is Sally Beringer. I am one of the volunteers at the Pantry. I've been volunteering here since September 2020. I have found it to be very rewarding. I started off with helping with voter registration last year, and I've kept on volunteering both with helping getting food ready and also with talking to clients and registering them when they come here to the pantry to get food. It's very interesting work. It's very rewarding. One of the things that I have particularly noticed recently is that as the eviction moratorium has expired, we've had more and more pantry clients come and say, well, I've got extra people living with me now because they've been evicted from their apartment, and we need more food and we need more help because of that. So we realize that we're supplying a really valuable service for a lot of the people that come here.
Hello, my name is Isaac. I'm the operation manager here at Community Service. I've been in community service over 40 years. And why I volunteer is because I believe in helping others. You know what I mean? A few families that I know about there that we really need help and stuff, and we took care of them, you know, and it made me feel good doing that. I love people, and I love being around people, and I love supporting people. And most of all, I love doing what I'm doing. Although it's hard work, but we do it anyway because we enjoy it.
Hello, my name's Jeanette Miller. I've been working at the pantry now for going on 10 years. I come because people need help. I come because I am a servant. I come because I have a family here. We might not agree all the time, but I know they love me and I love them. We help families like fathers who for some reason just walk off, leave the family. We have grandmother who's raising 8, 9 grandkids, can't afford to feed them. We have people who's choosing to buy medicine rather than food. There are people who taking care of great grandkids who need Pampers and so what. It really does my heart good to know that I'm helping those who are in need, and as well as helping myself to feel good. The pantry here, we just reach and touch everyone that we can. We get people from all over.
Good morning. My name is Karen Rohr, and I have been serving at the food pantry for about 10 years now. I go to the food pantry because I like it. The people there are kind of like a family, and they have been gracious enough to let me into their family. But I go there because I learn, because I grow. I want to tell you what happened when I first came to the food pantry, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I thought I did, but I didn't. And I had a gentleman come in who was homeless, and he had 3 people in his family. And I went to the director. I said, what do? I don't have an address. I mean, that was horrible. And she said, we're not going to worry about his address. We're going to worry about not just his family, but the family who is letting him sleep in their living room. If we don't make sure that there's enough food for all of them, he's going to lose his place to sleep. And this was just a total revelation for me. It was one of the first things that I learned at the food pantry. I want to tell you about a few of the clients that have come in and that I've registered who've really stuck with me. One of them was a mother of 3, and her sister was no longer able to take care of her children, so suddenly she was a mother of 6, and there just wasn't enough food to go around. Another person who came in, who I will never forget, was a 97-year-old woman. She had worked until she was 87. But when you work in a low-paying job, when you retire, your Social Security is $600 a month. And her rent was $400 a month. She didn't want to be there. She would have preferred to be working still, but she needed our help. There's a lot of people who come in who need our help, a lot of grandparents who are taking care of their children. And so I am asking you today to be generous, and thank you.
Hey, how you doing? The food pantry does a great job. If it weren't for them, I would starve to death. I'm homeless right now, and the food is very welcome to my stomach. I've done lost 2 pant sizes already in less than 2 months, so it's a good thing that they're here. If they weren't here, don't know what I'd do. I know the government won't help. Nobody helps really, but y'all are doing God's work. Feeding and helping the people who need help, your neighbors.
I'm Tyrone. I have no problem giving my name, and I'm here to represent the food pantry because oftentimes when you get your money on Social Security disability, it does not always last when you have to pay our medical expenses. Had it not been for the food pantry here today, we would starve to death. I am so grateful for all the people that are involved in this participation. So my name is Tyrone Turner, and I would like them to be helped more than they are now. But they're good to me, and they're good for Avondale, and they're good for the world. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Deacon Richard Foster, and I am the director of the Avondale Food Pantry. We have been around since 1952, serving people with food and clothing at some times. I want to thank the Unitarian Church. They have been a vital part of our organization, all the volunteers, all the financial support, and all the love. We feed people in Avondale, but we also connect with other food pantries. We feed various places. We go Shelter House downtown, Maslow's Army, Bethel Baptist Church, St. Vincent de Paul, New Hope Christian Center in Newport, Kentucky. We deliver food to these people also. So it's more than the people that we feed just in Avondale. Again, I just want to thank everybody. And we love what we do. As you see, the volunteers and the people that come and get the food, they love what they're doing. Nobody get paid. This is a love of people and a love of God. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Tom Rohr. I've been volunteering at the food pantry after being encouraged to do that by Dot Christensen for about 10 years. I'm now on the board representing First Church. Others, including volunteers and clients, have given testimonials about why they volunteer at the food pantry and what it means to the community. You've also heard from clients about the role the pantry plays in their lives. With that in mind, I'll spare you yet another testimonial. Instead, I'd like to give you some facts and statistics about the scope and the reach of the pantry. The pantry ranks among the top few in Hamilton County out of 265 food pantries. Since June 1st of this year, we've given food to approximately 650 households from 6 different communities and 35 different zip codes. Many pantries are only able to serve people from 4 or 5 immediate zip codes. The households we've served have about 1,750 individuals. 55% of these are either children or seniors. They've come to us over 3,500 times for food, and they've received enough food to prepare about 30,000 meals. One example of what our donations do, 7 years ago, you helped us buy a walk-in freezer and several commercial refrigerators. 5 years ago, you helped us buy a refrigerated truck to pick up donations. As a result, we can now provide clients with frozen meats, vegetables, refrigerated foods, eggs, milk, and foods that other pantries can't. As well, many donors require you have a refrigerated truck to pick up food from them, particularly frozen items. Operating the truck and electricity for our array of 6 freezers and refrigerators is one of our major budget items, and your donations help pay the bill. Another reason we conduct this special plate in October each year is to support an annual Thanksgiving food distribution. We'll use some of the special plate that we get today to buy turkeys for that distribution in November, and we expect to purchase somewhere between 350 and 400 frozen turkeys. Your generosity today will help us continue this tradition. And there are a number of different ways you can make donations.
To give to First Church, you can text the word GIVE to 513-717-7373. If you have access to our Breeze member system, you can click Give Now. If you're giving online via our website at firstuu.com, you can make a donation there as well. In all of our electronic giving, there will be a drop-down menu, and you can select the food pantry as your designated beneficiary. You can also mail a check to 536 Linton Street, Cincinnati, Ohio. Please put Shiloh Food Pantry in the memo line. Our offering will now be gratefully received.
Hi-de-ho, hi-de-hi, gonna get me a piece of the sky, gonna find me some of that old sweet roll, singing hi-de, oh, I've been down so low, bottom looked like up. Once I thought that second saves was enough to fill my cup. Now I offered all I had, but it ain't no way to live, being taken by the ones who got the least amount to give. Hi-de-ho, hi-de-hi, gonna get me a piece of the sky, gonna find me some of that old sweet roll, singing hi-de, 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 hi-de-ho. Once I met the devil and he was mighty slick, tempted me with worldly goods and said, you can have your pick. But when he laid the paper on me and showed me where to sign, I said, thank you very kindly, but I'm in too great a need of mine. Hi-de-ho, hi-de-hi, gonna get me a piece of the sky, gonna find me some of that old sweet roll, singing hi-de, 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 hi-de-ho.
You heard Meredith say this earlier, that here in the metro Cincinnati area, 270,000 households experience food insecurity. In the United States as a whole, 42 million people, that's 1 in every 8, is food insecure. That includes 13 million children. 13 million children, more than the population of New York City. It's 1 in every 6 children in this country are food insecure in 2021 in the United States of America. Just let that sink in for a minute. Here, in this country. And the effects of it are obvious. Let's talk about children. They can't focus when they're hungry. If they're in school, how are they supposed to learn to read and write if they're hungry and they can't focus? For many children, the most consistent meal they're going to get is lunch at school. And long-term effects are just as bad. If you're consistently hungry, your immune system suffers, which leads to repeated illness, which leads to missing more days of school, which leads to being left behind from a learning standpoint. Not to mention the social issues that go along with it. Children who come to school hungry often feel ashamed or embarrassed. They're the subject of jokes. 30 years ago, I guess it's been now, the comedian Eddie Murphy had this little routine that he would do about kids getting ice cream. And he'd hold up his ice cream cone, he'd say, "I got some ice cream, and you can't have none because you're on welfare." It's hurtful. It's brutal. The bullying, the shame, the anxiety that comes along with it, the fights it leads to, which then goes to being in detention or being expelled from school, and you're put further behind, and the cycle continues. But it's not just kids, it's seniors too. It's seniors. Even before the pandemic, seniors were facing a higher level of food insecurity than at any time since the Great Recession in 2007, and for some, since the Depression that started in 1929. It's not getting better. The pandemic has only made it worse. And it affects them. Seniors who are not having a proper diet are missing out on key nutrients like iron and calcium and protein. They're more likely to have depression, 262% more likely to be depressed, 78% more likely to suffer from asthma, 74% more likely to have diabetes, and 71% higher incidence of congestive heart failure. It's at both ends of the spectrum. And it's in the middle. There are families and young adults who've just gotten out of college perhaps, or maybe didn't even get to go to college and aren't making enough to buy food. They're eating what they can get. It's not good. The face of hunger in America looks just like me. It looks just like you and you. It looks like all of us. Some of us are hungry and we don't know it. When I was a kid, I remember those nights when we would have a treat of hot dogs and scrambled eggs for dinner. It wasn't until I was much older that I realized that was because there wasn't enough money. The face of hunger is us. It's right here. It's not just black people, brown people, immigrants, people of color. It's not just the unemployed. It's not just people in the inner cities. It's not just people who live in very rural environments. It's all kinds of people, all ages. It's children, it's youth, it's young adults, it's families, it's elders and seniors. Now, how can this be? We live in one of the wealthiest nations on the planet. It just doesn't seem possible. But we are so rich that we waste nearly 40% of all our food every year. 108 billion pounds of food is wasted every year in this wealthy country. How can this be that so many people are still hungry? Well, it's because of poverty. You can only waste what you can afford to get in the first place. If you don't have any money, you can't get any food to waste. Poverty is a contributing factor. Another one is access. Even if you have the money, if you don't have the access to the food, it's not going to do you any good. And in neighborhoods where there are food deserts, there's no place to go to get the food. And if you don't have the transportation to get to where the food is, you're still not going to get the food. It's this simple. You can't buy the food if you can't get to the store to get it. You can't buy the food if there's no store nearby. You can't buy the food if you don't have any money. And if you are ashamed, or if you are in a situation where you don't want others to know, you sit in silence. You wring your hands, you wonder, you pray. You try your best to live in resilience. You write prayers like Miss D's prayer. You say, "Oh God, how can this be?" And you do your best to make it through every day. But I think we should be doing more. What do we do? Well, in this country, for some people, the answer is, well, that can't be. No one should be hungry. There's food stamps. Go get food stamps. The government will take care of you. Get a job. I work, I buy food. It's not always that easy. For many people, finding a job is the hardest thing imaginable. Either because they don't have transportation to get to where the jobs are, they don't have the skills to do the jobs that are available. It's just not that simple. You can't just say, go get a job. And even if you say, get this job and somebody's already got a job, then what? The cost of food is going up and up and up. During this pandemic, our supply chains have been disrupted in ways that none of us imagined were possible. The cost of everyday items is going up. I was at Kroger yesterday, and I'd read a story in the morning about the cost of bacon increasing 25%. I don't think about it. If I want bacon, I get bacon. Yesterday, when I was in Kroger, there was an elderly woman standing next to me getting some, and she said, the price just keeps going up and up. I don't know if I can get bacon this week. And she chose something else instead, and I put my bacon in my cart, and then I thought, how much is this bacon? I hadn't even looked. I didn't know. I am privileged in that regard. Shame on me. So even if you have these food stamps, you can use them to get your bacon. Food stamps aren't necessarily enough. Do you know that the average person, their food stamp allotment is $1.40 per person per meal for the month? What are you going to get for $1.40? That's probably not the answer. And everybody doesn't qualify. Many people who are working but not earning enough don't even qualify to get food stamps. So it's not helpful. So what do we do? We help. We serve. That service is a tenet of many, many faiths. It's at the core of Christianity and Judaism and Hinduism and Islam and many, many faiths. That you serve those in need, that you help your friends, that you help the stranger. Remember Matthew 25, where Jesus talks about those who fed him and clothed him and helped him when he appeared as a stranger. Doesn't matter if you don't know the person, you help in whatever way you are able to help. As part of our Cincinnati Interfaith Festival of Faiths, there are, I think there are probably 20 different houses of worship around the city that come together, from indigenous people to all the Protestant denominations, just many, many of us. And every year, the Hindu organization says, we feed people. And they make enough food for 3,000 people because that's what they do. That's it. We help one another. We feed one another. And it's a central concept of our justice work, the reason why we do it. So we have to deal with all those related things too. This means we need to work on ending poverty. Systemic poverty is number one in terms of the causes of a lot of our hunger issues. We have to work for a living wage so that people can afford housing and food and health care, and they're not making the decision of whether to buy food or medicine. We have to improve accessibility. No food deserts. That's got to end. We have to make sure that there's transportation available, that people can get to the food they need. And we have to remember that it's not just about helping ourselves, it's helping the universe. It's doing what we can to help our neighbors, whether they are down the street in Avondale, across the river in northern Kentucky, or 1,000 miles away in rural Alabama. It's about helping them and remembering where the self stops and the universe begins. This is something that was written by Todd Taylor, and it ties in with Meredith's learning from her Renaissance module. And it's interesting that we both had the same thought in the same week. Todd Taylor writes, "Who can be certain where the self stops and the universe begins? When we breathe, it is the air from the passing wind that fills our lungs. To our nostrils drifts the fragrance of the woodland flower. When we taste, it is of the earth's flavor and its saltiness. When we eat, it is of the field's corn and its wheat. When we open our eyes, they are filled with sunlight and starlight. Who can be certain where the self stops and the universe begins?" If you are hungry, and I am interconnected with you, then I am hungry too. Your hunger is my problem. We need each other. We need to keep an eye out for one another. Watch out for your neighbors, especially the kids and the seniors. If you're making something, make a little extra and give it to the person next door who might be in need. There's a commercial right now where the little kid takes a dinner to the senior living next door and says, "Hey, we made dinner." And then it cuts to this man who presumably lives alone eating dinner with the little girl. We can do that. There's no reason why we can't help one another. We can donate to organizations that are making a difference. Give of our time, our talents, and our treasures. You heard those stories this morning, that it works. And remember, it is important that we help one another. The lines are blurry between where our selves stop and our universe begins. Especially in these times that we're in today, it's more important than ever that we stick together, that we help one another, that we work to end hunger. No one should be hungry, not in this country, not today, not ever. We end our service by extinguishing our chalice, by reciting together the words that appear on the screen. Together we say, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. As we prepare to leave this space, I remind you of the words of Miss D. And I ask that as we leave here, even though it might seem impossible to be optimistic and faith might be hard to hold on to, in this moment, remember that love will carry us through. May we each do what we can to help those in need, and remember that they could be us. Go in grace, go in peace, go in love. There are some announcements in our community today. Right after the service, our welcoming and membership team and I will get together for getting to know you. If you have wondered about the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati or Unitarian Universalism in general, we invite you to join us in a Zoom room where we can get to know one another. No strings attached. If you don't already have that Zoom link, you can send an email right now to member-care@firstuu.com and we will share the invitation with you. Next Sunday is the blessing of the animals. If you have not already done so and you would like your animal to be blessed, whatever kind of animal it is, send a photograph to administrator@firstuu.com. We're asking that you send them by October 7th. Include your name and your pet's name. And if there's a photo that you'd like to share with us, you can send that as well. We're also seeking your input for our spooky season service. On Halloween, we would like to ask you to share your pictures, your videos, your scary stories, or whatever you have to share during our Halloween service. You can upload them to the link on the screen. If you need that link, you can email member-care@firstuu.com or look for emails that Meredith has sent out. That will be a Zoom service because our children will be featured in that service. So for safety reasons, it will not be on YouTube. But please send in whatever you'd like